evening, everyone. This is Neerja. I'm a senior genetic counselor at LifeCell. Today, I have with me, and I have the honor to have with me Dr. Veronica Arora, who's a consultant, associate consultant at Institute of Medical Genetics and Genomics, Sri Gangaram Hospital. She's an MBBS with an MSN specialization in medical genetics. Her interest areas are dysmorphology, autism, skeletal dysplasias, and genetic metabolic disorders. I also have the honor to have with me today Dr. Sharmistha Garg, who's also an associate consultant at Sri Gangaram Hospital. And she also is a treasurer at the Indian Menopause Society, Delhi, and a member of the editorial board. Welcome to both of you today. And today we will be talking about protecting lactating mothers and protecting pregnant women from COVID, which has been the most recent topic of discussion and the most concerning at this time. Welcome on board, and the floor is all yours.
Thank you, Ms. Neerja. Thank you for having us, and a very good evening to all of you. It's a pleasure discussing this pertinent topic. I think we all are facing and going through a hell lot of time with the second wave of COVID. So I think that's a very pertinent topic to choose. So I think I'll request Dr. Veronica to go ahead with the questions first, and then we take the questions from the audience. Dr. Veronica?
Yeah. Yes. Thank you, Dr. Sharmistha. Thank you, Neerja and LifeCell for giving us this opportunity. And I would especially like to thank LifeCell also for being so active in this COVID era and giving all the doctors the chance to interact with everyone. And I would request all of you to ask questions, because we are here today just to solve any queries you have, especially related to pregnancy and lactation, and whatever questions you may about COVID affecting pregnancy, we are happy to answer those. So first, we would discuss a certain important aspects of COVID in pregnancy and lactation. So that would clear some of your doubts. And after that also you have some doubts, then please feel free to post them on the question and answer session. Thank you. So Neerja, we can start now.
Yes. So Dr. Veronica and Dr. Sharmistha, I think the first and the most pertinent question that comes to our mind in this time of the situation is, what is the effect of a COVID infection in a pregnancy? If you want to tackle that first.
Take this question. So Neerja, the first thing that comes to in our mind when the woman is pregnant, is she more likely to get COVID infection rather as compared to the general population? So the answer is no. Okay, the pregnant women are first of all. I think somebody is speaking in between.
No, go ahead.
Okay, so pregnant women, first of all, they are not they are not having a chance of getting COVID infection more than our general population. This is the first thing we need to understand. The likelihood ratio is the same for pregnant women as well as for the general population. But because of the hormone alteration which happens in a pregnant lady, because of the immune responses that happens in a pregnant woman, the symptoms might take a turn towards severity in a lesser period of time. Okay, and when it happens, so related to pregnancy, what happens in the second wave, pertinently, we are seeing a lot of cases in the first trimester, they are going through a lot of miscarriages. In the later half of pregnancy, we have seen patients, they're having low birth weight fetuses, preterm births, and in severe cases also we have seen, because of hypoxia in the mother, a lot of mothers are losing their baby in the intrauterine period. So these are the complications, yes, we have seen in pregnancy, but the general precautions remain the same for the pregnant women. So the same precaution the women, they need to follow. I mean, the masking, proper social distancing, and hand sanitization, that's all.
Great. So it's reassuring to understand that the pregnant women are not at any higher risk as compared to anybody else. And the same measures that we use for the rest of the population can also be utilized by a woman who's pregnant to protect herself. But what about the effects on the baby if the mother is infected with COVID-19? So you had mentioned that you're seeing a surge in the miscarriages now. So what is the effect on the baby during the pregnancy if the mother is infected?
First of all, we need to understand that this COVID virus, this coronavirus, this novel coronavirus is not teratogenic. From teratogenicity, I mean to say it will not leave any long-term effect on the baby. Okay. But now we are seeing few cases reported of vertical transmission. Vertical transmission means if a female is carrying a baby in her womb, there are chances that this virus can be transmitted to the baby. But these are very few cases which we have seen. Second thing, this virus is not transmitted by a breast milk or through the vaginal secretion. Okay, so we need not be scared that if a patient is undergoing a normal delivery, that the baby will be affected during the delivery. No, vaginal secretions or any other secretion per se, it does not affect the baby. For the breast milk, I would say, of course, the virus does not get transmitted through breast milk, but yes, the antibodies which the mother has formed during her COVID infection get transmitted to the baby. So it is in fact protective to the baby. Okay, so there is not much transmission which are recorded from mother to baby. So we not get scared of that. Okay, it's only the hypoxia which kills the baby.
Understood. So it's the oxygen level that really is what affects the baby during a pregnancy. Can you also please explain what teratogen means, just for the audience and the benefit?
Like we have, like if the general public is aware of viruses like rubella virus or C. cytomegalovirus. So when they happen, when these viruses cause infection in the first trimester, in the first 3 months to the mother, they cause some long-term effect, which are like you can say the baby can have some hearing defects, so the baby can have some vision loss, or there can be a decrease in the size of the brain. So these are the long-term effect that the baby will have if the mother gets infected during the first 3 months of pregnancy. But this doesn't happen with COVID infection. Okay, so that is teratogenicity.
Okay, thank you so much. Now, going further and thinking about the infection itself, what are the recommendations for an antenatal visit? So if a mother is visiting the hospital, with a COVID infection, and she obviously has all of these scheduled appointments, so what are the recommendations for how to manage those appointments now?
Okay, so in the non-COVID era, what we were following or what we are telling our patients is that you have to come to the hospital once in a month for the first 7 months. And after that, once in 2 weeks during her 8th month. And when it comes to the 9th month, the final last trimester, they have to visit the hospital once in a week. Okay, so the number of antenatal visits increase with the increase in the gestational age. But with the COVID thing, like the telephonic consultation, they have come up, and the government has also legalized the telephonic consultation. So the physical meetings with the doctor has been restricted to just 3 or 4. Okay. So the most, if the patient is infected, so she can anyways delay her antenatal visit by 2 weeks till her quarantine is over. So, but anyways, she has to visit the hospital at about 12th week, which is about 3rd month, then 5th month, then 7th month, and finally at 9th month. In between, she can follow up with her doctor telephonically. Because these are the time when the patient needs ultrasound. So for that, she has to visit the hospital. Otherwise, she can go on with her telephonic consultation, or definitely under her supervision with the doctor. Because anytime if the patient faces any problem, then she has to report to the hospital.
With COVID positive mother, are there any special precautions they usually take when they are visiting the hospital if they have to go in for an ultrasound?
As I said, Nisha, the precautions remain the same. That is masking, double masking rather, I should say. Then social distancing and hand hygiene, that is to be followed. Okay, nothing else for the pregnant woman.
Thank you so much. So you talked a little bit about the transmission through vaginal secretions and breastfeeding. So can a COVID positive mother breastfeed her baby after the baby is born?
That's a very important question. I think every female who has delivered, every COVID positive mother who has delivered, this question comes in their mind. Yes, 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 you can feed your baby. Okay. After a temporary period of isolation, which is usually 7 days, 2 days before starting of the fever and 7 days after that, the mother becomes non-infective, even though she's having fever, even though she's having all the symptoms, but she does not transmit the virus to the other person or the person who is taking care of her. So after that temporary period of isolation, she can feed her baby with little mechanical, you can say a mechanical barrier. You can put a curtain in between the mother and the baby, and the mother can put a mask, and then she can feed the baby. In some cases where it's low socioeconomic groups, you can say, but it's very difficult for the other caretakers to take care of the mother. In that case, we keep the baby with the mother, like leaving a distance of 6 feet. The mother can take care of her baby, and wearing the mask and following the proper hand hygiene, she can very well take care of her baby, and she can feed the baby. As I've already mentioned, the mother transmits her antibodies, which are protective, which you can say mother can give immunity to the baby through her breast milk. So please do not, deprive the baby of the benefits of the breast milk. Second thing, if there is a good caretaker who is a non-COVID around the mother, so what mother can do, she can express her breast milk, and that caretaker can feed the baby through a spoon or a feeder, you can say. So yes, breastfeeding has to be continued. Okay.
Thank you so much. Now, moving further in this, what about vaccines? And I see a couple of questions here actually posted on the Facebook Live as well, where people are asking about, COVID vaccines. Can these be given during a pregnancy?
See, in India, actually, only two type of vaccine. I think Dr. Veronica would take this question because.
Yeah.
Okay. So about COVID vaccines, so there are totally some four kind of vaccines that we have. We have the mRNA vaccines, which unfortunately are not available in India. And in India, as you know, we have the Covaxin and we have Covishield. In Covaxin, the whole of the virus in its entirety is given to a person, and it's an Indian vaccine. Whereas Covishield, a lot more trial is done, and the protein, the dead protein, the part of the virus is given. So basically, both Covishield and Covaxin, we do not have enough data right now that it is safe in pregnant women because not many trials are done. It is not like it is not safe, but it is more like that we don't know. But that being said, a lot of vaccines in the past, which are based on the same mechanism as Covaxin and Covishield, have proven to be completely, entirely safe during pregnancy. So most of the bodies in India, including the CDC, as well as the American Society of Obstetrics and Gynecology, as well as the Indian societies, have recommended that the vaccination should be given in pregnant women as the benefits are higher than the risk of vaccination. So all of you who are pregnant can actually take the vaccination. And also I saw another question about that if you have got COVID in pregnancy, should you then take the vaccine or not? So if any human being, a pregnant or a non-pregnant person, has actually gotten the COVID infection, according to the guidelines, there has to be an interval of 3 months before you take your next shot. So you have to decide in what period of pregnancy have you've gotten the infection. For example, if you got the infection around 20 weeks of pregnancy, then if you have to wait anyway until your 30 to 33 weeks of pregnancy, it's just better to maybe wait and get it later. If you've gotten the infection in the first half of pregnancy, it's better to maybe take the vaccine. So in whatever trials that have been done throughout the world for the mRNA vaccine, they have proven to be completely safe. And for the Indian vaccine, though the trials are not there, the guidelines still say you go ahead and take it because we have data on similar vaccines available.
I would like to add one thing, Veronica. The FOXI just 15 days back has given the permission to vaccinate the lactating mothers. Okay, even though now we can vaccinate all the lactating mothers because we don't have much data on the pregnancy, but yes, we can vaccinate the lactating mothers. So they're like free to take and they should take the vaccine.
Okay. So that was actually my next question here, because a lot of individuals here have been asking the same thing. Is, there is a mother who's posted here saying that her son is 9 months old and she's still lactating. So is it safe for her to get the vaccine during vaccination?
Yes.
Okay.
So in pregnancy and lactation, we advise that you go ahead and do take the vaccines because there have not been any side effects which have been noted, which are more in the general population. The 1 in 1 lakh risk of anaphylaxis remains, but you do stay in touch with your doctor for any of those risks. But that being said, it is very important that COVID causes a lot of risk to the newborn in the form of the described risk, as well as intrauterine death, which have been seen because, as we know, the COVID does thicken the blood. So the enough blood does not reach to the baby. So it's important that you do not be scared and you take the vaccine, that the effect of COVID are much more severe than the vaccination.
Right. There's another question here, Dr. Veronica, that has been posted saying that the patient, the individual is in her 9th month of the pregnancy and she wants to understand how can they differentiate between the symptoms of COVID versus the symptoms of pregnancy. because there are so many symptoms now that it's associated with COVID, and it becomes difficult to differentiate between what's happening.
So symptoms of pregnancy, there is nothing called symptoms of pregnancy, right? So if she's having anything like a sore throat or mild fever in today's world, when the COVID is on such a rise, you have to think it is COVID and get a simple RT-PCR test done. Clinically, no one in the world can tell you if this is COVID or not. So please go ahead and get this test done. Now we have kits and home-based testing which are available. So someone will just come and do your testing. So please do get this done, as because the precautions will change majorly if you turn out to be COVID positive.
Mm-hmm. Correct. So when there's another question here that has been posted about, let me just open this, I'm sorry. For individuals who've either been infected previously or infected currently, is CVS amniocentesis or reduction, are these contraindicated for a pregnant woman?
No, now such procedure is indicated. Amniocentesis or CVS or reduction is not indicated in a COVID related situation, because such disorders are actually done to mostly look for genetic disorders. They are not usually done to look for infections. In some cases, we can look for infections in the baby, but in the case of COVID, the maximum concentration of the virus is in nasopharynx. So we cannot find out if the baby is infected with COVID or not by procedures like amniocentesis or CVS.
Correct.
So they're not indicated.
Correct. I'm just looking at the questions here. There's another question here about management of pregnancy with GDM, gestational diabetes. If individuals have to take corticosteroids, then what is your suggestion for that?
I think here we have to weigh the risk and the benefits. Okay, and as such, steroids are not given in mild infection, which mostly the pregnant women have. They usually have mild infections. So steroids are indicated only when there is hypoxia, when the oxygen level goes below 94%, or if the patient develops shortness of breath. That is the only indication when we give steroids, which actually acts as anti-inflammatory. So even if the patient has gestational diabetes mellitus and patient has moderate disease, yes, we can go ahead with steroids. And if the sugar level rise, that can be taken very well with insulin. That can be taken care of. Okay, so we did not get scared with steroids. When indicated, they do wonders. I'm telling you, when there is hypoxia, when there is shortness of breath, steroids, they do wonders. So we again, as I said, benefits and risk that we have to weigh. So yes, if a pregnant lady is hypoxic, shortness of breath, and she is diabetic, we can go ahead with steroids.
Dr. Veronica, if you want to take this question, there's another question about what should be the prescribed gap between 2 doses of vaccine, one being a tetanus vaccine and the other being a COVID vaccine during a pregnancy.
Okay, so 1 week of gap is enough for tetanus and COVID. Also, I see another question which says that someone got infected with COVID at 20 weeks of pregnancy. So they want to know if there was any effect on the baby and when can they take the vaccine. So about effect on the baby, I think Dr. Sharmishta has discussed in detail. We just have to be in touch with a gynecologist about starting Clexane. There is a drug which decreases the blood flow, etc., which increases the blood flow, etc. And about the vaccination, you wait for 3 months after you have been infected with COVID infection, and then you are free to take the vaccine. So just after 12 weeks, so if you're 20 weeks, around 32 weeks, 34 weeks, you go ahead and take the vaccine.
Correct.
I think another question is
questions.
I think another question is popping up. They're asking that the government has not approved the vaccination for pregnant women. So should we still go ahead and take the vaccine?
Right.
So I think obviously Foxy has not approved the
so it has not. Yeah, we've discussed it.
But I think Pfizer will be launching their vaccine in July. Pfizer and Moderna, they both have been given the green signal from our government, and they'll be launching their vaccine in July. So I think mRNA vaccine are very well approved in pregnancy. So once this vaccine comes, the pregnant women can also take those vaccines.
Great.
We have the data from the Covishield and the Covaxin. So as of now, no, the pregnant women are not taking vaccine, but I think July onwards,
Right.
Correct.
And in fact, I should tell you one thing more. I mean, the flu shots which we're giving in
So,
pregnancy.
but still, even the, I think, ma'am, there is some disconnection. The network, there is some network error, I feel.
No, dear, I think it's going smoothly.
Okay, is it okay?
We're able to hear you, Dr. Veronica.
Yeah, okay, great.
Okay, in fact, the flu shots are also, I mean, we are seeing that the ladies who have got the flu shots, they are having much milder infection when they get the COVID. Because anyways, it's a, the symptoms are just like the flu influenza only. So the ladies who are given the flu shots, which we are regularly giving in pregnancy, they do have a very mild COVID infection. This is what we have seen also.
So
Correct.
finally, I think about vaccination, we are saying that Pfizer is approved, but the government of India, they're not saying that it is not recommended. They're just saying it is not approved because, as I said, there is no enough data, but they want you to take it. So pregnant women are actually taking Covaxin and Covishield. So if you're pregnant right now, so you can go ahead and take Covaxin and Covishield. And I think Covaxin is a little better because the duration between 2 doses of Covaxin is only 1 month. So it will give you protection faster in pregnancy. So I know of pregnant patients who are now protected and they take during pregnancy and they're okay. But you need to know that this is a this is just a guideline and the testing has not been completed. So Dr. Shamishta, there's another question for you about the oxygen levels in pregnancy, which in pregnancy versus COVID infection, how do you differentiate?
See, pregnancy is a physiological state. So no matter how much breathless you are, the saturation, the oxygen saturation, which we are monitoring, will never fall below 94%. So that is a definite proof. So if the oxygen saturation is falling below 94, then definitely there is something wrong with your lungs. Then you must go and get tested. So in pregnancy, even if you're breathless, your saturation won't fall. That's a simple answer to it.
Right. There's another question here about vertical transmission. So they're asking about what were the fetal manifestations in cases where vertical transmission have been reported?
Okay, good question. Well, if the neonate, if the mother has contracted this infection in the last trimester and the patient has just delivered within 14 days, so what we have seen in the neonate, they are being found to have the MIRS. What is MIRS? It's a multi-inflammatory response syndrome. The babies, they have failure to thrive. They don't take feed very nicely. They're not able to maintain their body's temperature. The urine output goes down. So that is something called as MIRS, but there are only few cases reported of that. So you not be scared of that. Okay. So as I said, it is not teratogenic. So MTP is not indicated in such patients. If the mother get infected in the first trimester, so medical termination of pregnancy is not indicated in such cases. So don't worry. Vertical transmission is anyways very, very, very less. Okay.
Thank you. There's another question, Dr. Veronica, if you want to take this about, is it mandatory to take a COVID test before the delivery, especially when they're close to their, delivery and they've already gotten infected and recovered?
No, there is no need.
No. So if you're infected and recovered, and there is a proper evidence of infection, you will be having antibodies. So there is no need of that, as Dr. Shamishta said. And also there's another question of how long do you need to wait before you plan pregnancy after you have taken both vaccines. So this is a relevant question. Once you have taken both vaccine, you will start forming antibodies around 6 weeks, and you can start in the second cycle, like leaving 2 cycles, you can start planning pregnancy.
Great.
And also someone asked if in the 7th month they have taken the vaccine, they have taken in the 7th month which vaccine they can take. So in any month you can take any vaccine, but all I'm saying is if you take in the later months, it is better to take Covaxin because the duration between 2 doses of Covaxin is lesser, so you'll get a quicker immunity. That is all.
Right. There's another question here, Dr. Sharmishta, if you want to take this one, about whether maternal hypoxia can likely cause IUGR.
Yes, chronic hypoxia can. You must have heard about the term COVID lungs. Okay, many times what happens after this COVID infection, even if you turn COVID negative, the lungs become fibrotic. From fibrotic, I mean to say they don't inflate to the degree which they used to, I mean, inflate previously. So what happens? There is chronic hypoxia developing in the mothers. So with chronic hypoxia, with the chronic low levels of oxygen, yes, babies can be little growth restricted. Yes, it can happen.
I'm just looking for other questions here.
But this is fun.
Yes, absolutely. And these are very relevant questions and a very timely talk. So thank you both for that. There's another question here, and this is, I'm trying to understand this correctly. So this is somebody who's posting about asymptomatic COVID patient who's currently
There's an MCQ also.
Yeah.
No.
There is. So yeah, so this is somebody who's an asymptomatic COVID positive
Thank you
patient,
for that.
and we want to understand, kind of how and where to get admitted, whether in a COVID hospital or a normal hospital, when the EDD is near, and after how many days.
As I told you, the infection period is just 2 days before the onset of influenza-like illness.
You can take this, yeah.
Sorry? Sorry, I didn't get your question.
Yes, something you take this question.
Yeah. As I told, the infective period is 2 days.
The question. Yeah.
The question is in which facility they should get admitted, right?
Correct. And how soon?
How soon? I mean, once you've completed the 17 days of the period of quarantine, self-isolation, you should rather say, is 17 days. So once you've completed that period of time, you can be admitted in non-COVID facility. That's very clear.
Okay.
Because you're no more infective. You cannot infect other people.
Right.
So you can be admitted in non-COVID facility. And regarding this COVID test, I would like to add one more thing. What is happening in a lot of hospitals is like they have got separate sections for COVID and non-COVID. So even if the patient is COVID recovered, we know the patient is not infective, but we need actually a proof, I mean, on paper proof. Okay, so actually in that case, a lot of hospitals, including our hospital also, we are getting the COVID test done. And once there is a proof that, yeah, the patient is negative, we are admitting the patient in COVID as well as non-COVID facility respectively.
Correct. There's another question here which I think a lot of individuals might be thinking about is that is there a diet that should, what kind of diet should be taken during the pandemic period while we are planning for a pregnancy? Is there any difference in what is otherwise recommended for somebody who's currently pregnant or planning a pregnancy?
See, there is one thing I would like to say. Please don't go for mixopathy. Okay, there are so many immunoboosters, Giloy, this, that. Don't go for all this. Just maintain your healthy routine, exercise, de-stress yourself, and take a normal diet. If you are pregnant, you just need 300 calories more than what you were taking previously. So just add those things in your diet. Take fresh fruits, vegetables, whatever you're eating, but don't go for this mixopathy things. No, honestly, these Ayurvedic preparations, I mean, I'm not against Ayurveda, but we don't know their effects on pregnancy. So don't go for all these tablets and all. Just take your normal diet. There is no specific diet which you should take before planning a pregnancy. Just a normal healthy diet depending on your BMI. That's all.
Okay. There's another question here about, before 16 weeks, can we start any aspirin empirically? Is there any data on something like that?
See, aspirin is antiplatelet. Okay, there is a difference. What we're giving is anticoagulation in the treatment of moderate to severe disease and COVID. Ecosprin is antiplatelet. So antiplatelet is not recommended in COVID, but yes, low molecular weight heparin or heparin is recommended in moderate and severe disease of COVID. Right. That is to be taken under the guidance of your doctor. Don't take Ecosprin by yourself because you may land up in other complications.
Right.
Yeah, just don't go and buy Disprin.
Over-the-counter drugs, I mean, they are doing havoc.
And think that it will help you. It is not related to the actual blood thinner, which is heparin, which is actually indicated. They are two different drugs. So, yeah.
What is happening with the WhatsApp prescription circulating? And with the, I mean, the people not getting access to the medical facilities, they're doing self-medication, and this is,
Right. Well, one question that I have here then is, what about the medications that is usually given during a pregnancy for somebody who is COVID positive now? Are those similar to, what individuals get otherwise, or are there any special care that is required for those individuals?
See, it all depends what kind of COVID infection you have, whether it's a mild, moderate, or severe. Mild patients, they need not take anything specifically, only vitamin C and vitamin B complex, which they're already taking in pregnancy, that's enough for them. Right. But if the patient has, progressed to a moderate or a severe disease, then the prescription has to be from the doctor's side. There is nothing you can take on by yourself. Okay, so don't take anything by yourself. Let your doctor prescribe.
Absolutely.
So there is another, I think, question which an MBBS student is asking that according to her, she said that they were taught that all viral infections were teratogenic in the first semester of MBBS. So that is not correct, because there are so many viral infections like common cold, Haemophilus, etc. They're not teratogenic. The actual teratogenic viruses are very few, really. So about COVID, we do not have all the data, but we know till now that we have not seen major birth defects or birth malformation following a COVID pregnancy. So for that, you don't need to worry too much during your pregnancy if you have recovered and with the mild disease especially.
Right.
So all viruses are not teratogenic. That's what.
Correct. There's another question here about medications. Is there an antibiotic of choice for prevention of bacterial infections that can happen due to COVID in a pregnant woman?
Bacterial infection with COVID, that's a separate chapter. I mean,
antibiotic. Yeah.
Antibiotic. Yes, I mean, see, the patients usually they present with sore throat or upper respiratory infection. So in those cases, we are giving azithromycin, but we are not giving doxycycline or ivermectin in pregnancy. So yes, we do give antibiotic if the patient has symptoms, otherwise not.
I'm just checking the Facebook page too.
So, Dr. Sharmishta, someone wants to know that low molecular weight heparins, once you've started, till how long do you want to give it?
If the patient is near her EDD, if she has delivered, so we are actually giving for at least 2 to 3 weeks after her delivery to prevent the risk of thrombosis, because as we know, this COVID infection is basically a thrombotic disease. Okay, so if we have started it before her delivery, so we would like to continue for at least 2 weeks after her delivery. So we are giving it when the patient goes home. So we are giving it for 2 weeks.
Great.
Because recently we are seeing a lot of patients coming with thrombosis. Like recently I've operated on a patient, that patient had an aortic thrombus. Can you believe that? Leading to a superior mesenteric artery thrombosis and leading to intestinal gangrene. So a lot of patients are coming with gangrene, not only, it's like an intestinal
so
attack.
Intense.
Yeah. So for prevention of thrombosis, yes, we're giving it for a long period of time.
Right. Here there's another question on the Facebook page about medications. Is it okay to take Dolo 650, which is I think a common medication for fever in the 9th month of pregnancy?
Yes, Dolo is a preferred antipyretic, you can say, which is given in pregnancy. Yes, you can take, provided your liver functions are normal.
Right.
Yes, you can take Dolo.
Correct.
So another question again about how much interval do you need to wait after COVID positive in pregnancy by Prachi. So Prachi, after a COVID positive, you have to wait for 3 months. And so in pregnancy, you've recovered, you wait for 3 months and then you can take the vaccine.
Somebody is asking after delivery, when can I take the vaccine? Right?
Yeah.
Once baby is delivered, after how many days?
You can take it any time. You can take during delivery also. Right. The vaccine you can take any time. It does not matter. Yeah. So
there's also another question.
So someone asking about the treatment and prophylaxis of COVID infection also.
Prophylaxis for COVID infection.
Yeah.
Yes.
I wish there was a prophylaxis.
There is no prophylaxis here. We are sorry. There is no prophylaxis in allopathy. But yes, Ayurveda is like claiming a lot of things. Coronil has come in the market that has been approved. So, I mean, we don't have much knowledge about it. But yes, in allopathy, there is no prophylaxis. It's vaccine, and vaccine which can prevent you, which can actually protect you.
Correct. Somebody here is asking about should they cross the first trimester before going for a vaccination? So I think we've answered this before, but if you just want to take that.
Yes, they can go ahead. I think Veronica will approve that. Yes, we can go ahead.
Yes.
So there's another question here about just before the delivery, if the mother is found to be COVID positive, what are the precautions we should take during the delivery and during lactation?
During delivery, yes, obviously the person who is taking the delivery has to wear PPE. There should be a negative pressure in the room where we're conducting the delivery, and the patient also should be wearing a mask. And we should be monitoring her oxygen levels throughout her delivery, because when the patient is pushing, when the patient is bearing down, definitely there is little hypoxia. So we need to monitor her oxygen levels. We need to monitor the heart rate of the baby continuously when we're delivering the baby, right? And we need to cut short her delivery. We need to reduce her pain, because when the patient is in pain, there is more chance of getting into hypoxia. So we can give her labor analgesia, what we are saying, a painless delivery. Yes, we can offer the patient. And we need to cut down the second stage of labor. We need to cut down the efforts which are taken by the mother. There are gynecological terms for that, but yes, we need to fasten the delivery so that the mother is less hypoxic during her period. And once the baby is delivered, we need to hand over the baby to the pediatrician. What the pediatrician they test the baby for COVID with RT-PCR. If the baby is COVID positive, then definitely the baby will stay with the mother. If the baby is COVID negative and they have got relatives at home who can take care of the baby is handed over to the relatives. Mother can express the breast milk, and the care provider, the one who is taking care of the baby, can feed the baby the mother's own milk, which the mother has expressed, as I said, after a temporary period of isolation. Even during the isolation, mother can express the milk, the provider can feed, and after that, mother can directly feed the baby by putting on a mask. That's all.
Great, great. There's another question here about, I think Dr. Veronica, you've taken the question. Okay, so so
there is another question. I think someone wants to know, which is an interesting question, Dr. Mishra, that someone got COVID positive just before delivery, a woman, and do you still allow lactation just before delivery? So if the mother is COVID positive, do you still allow lactation?
Temporary period of 7 days of isolation, and after that, yes, she can go ahead with her breastfeeding thing. Because initial 7 days are the one when the mother is infected. So yes.
But even in those 7 days, you mentioned that we
yes, she can express her breast milk, and the provider can, the one who's taking care of the baby can feed the milk.
Correct.
Because the virus is not secreted in the breast milk.
Correct. So essentially, it's the baby gets the benefit of the breast milk despite of the infection, which is more important. I had personally, honestly read that there were some articles which said that there were antibodies that were present in the breast milk, and that it could actually benefit the baby as well. So is that true? Is that what we're saying?
Yes, the colostrum, which is the first milk, or the witch milk we call, it is loaded with IgA, which it's loaded with immunoglobulins that gives the baby an immunity to fight against a lot of infections later on. So it is actually, you must give the breast milk to the baby. There is no way you should.
More specifically for the COVID infection, are there antibodies that we are seeing for if the mother is COVID positive? Then
the antibodies initially, in the initial first 7 days, antibodies are not formed. Antibodies are formed at least after 10 days of the infection. The IgG starts forming. So IgG is secreted through the breast milk, which is beneficial to the baby. But for the first 7 days, there are no antibodies in the breast milk.
All right. There's somebody here asking about that they have a patient who's in the first trimester with COVID positive and is breathless. So could you please explain them the treatment?
Patient is breathless and she's COVID positive. So we need to monitor her vitals, which includes her respiratory rate, her pulse rate, her saturation, and the fever. Okay. So if the saturation is more than 94% and the respiratory rate is less than 24 per minute, she is a case of mild infection. Because in the first trimester, if indicated, we can again go ahead with a chest X-ray or HRCT to see for the severity of the disease. Obviously by putting an abdominal sheet. If the patient is having mild symptoms, so after consulting with your physician, you can have a home isolation and patient can be treated very well. And the samples which are to be done in such patients are usually CBC and all the inflammatory markers, which include CRP, IL-6, D-dimer. If everything is in normal range, patient can definitely be on a home isolation. And these samples are again to be repeated after 5 to 7 days in mild cases. And if the fever persists or the patient becomes hypoxic or the saturation goes below 94 or the respiratory rate is more than 24, then yes, she is having moderate to severe disease. Then patient needs to be hospitalized in that case.
Okay. Great, thank you. I think that's very helpful. There's also somebody who's asking here, this is a bit of a tangent question, but I think very pertinent to somebody who's pregnant. This person is 6 months pregnant and her weight is 95 kilos, and she wants to understand what are the precautions she can take in this COVID period where she's not able to do any exercise, obviously because of the isolation.
So for the exercise, obviously you cannot go outdoors to do your physical exercise, but yes, when you're indoors, you can walk on a treadmill, you can do your yoga, you can do your breathing exercises, which are very important because she's obese. So definitely breathing exercises are the must for her. So she can continue doing that. For that, she need not go outside. Yoga, she can do upper arm exercises, breathing exercises, and yes, if she has got a facility of having a treadmill at her home, she can walk on it. She can have a brisk walk. I mean, 30 minutes a day is good for her. So that she doesn't put on extra weight, and I mean, it's good for her.
Right. Great. Great.
Anything else?
No, I'm just looking here. I think we've answered most of the questions that have come in so
Just
far.
look through, yeah.
Very good questions, and I think thank you.
So there is another question about how to continue about the low molecular weight heparin and if you start early in pregnancy.
If you start early in pregnancy, I think 3 weeks period is more than enough. If you're having a moderate disease, 3 weeks period is more than enough. They want to know the dose of also?
No, so that I've answered. They want to know, do antibody levels in breast milk remain the same in COVID mothers also? So this also we are just conjecturing that they should. We don't have enough data as we said of it, but as other infections, the IgG and the IgA antibodies, IgG especially, remains in the breast milk, which is likely to remain and is likely to be transmitted to the baby. Yeah. So another question from Nidhi Sharma that she's 100 kg in 7 months. Is that correct? Am I reading correct? In 7 months, how much weight will I increase in next 2 months? In 7 months of pregnancy. So that likely depends. So
Nidhi, that all depends
if
on
you're
how
at
much
28 weeks, you're saying you're
see, Nidhi, if you're already obese pre-pregnancy, then the ideal weight for you to put on is somewhere around 7 kg. You should not be putting much weight. Okay, so if you're already 7 months, you please concentrate on, taking protein in your diet rather than taking fats and carbohydrates. So your diet should include like 40% of protein and 20% of carbohydrates, 5 to 10% of your fat, and rest should be your protein. I mean, you should concentrate on taking more of protein and fruits, vegetables, taking high fiber diet, and please cut down on carbohydrates and fat. In that case, you will not put on much weight, but your baby will grow nicely. With a 100 kg weight, you are like more prone for having diabetes mellitus in pregnancy, pre-eclampsia in pregnancy. So there are a lot of complications that can happen. I'm not scaring you, but please take care of yourself. You please consult your doctor and your dietitian, get a diet chart made so that you don't put on much during your pregnancy. Okay.
There's also another question here about somebody from Shailendra Sharma is asking this question. What are the other tests that can be done to be 100% sure for the fetus that there are no anomalies? They've already gotten an NT scan, anomaly scan. Everything seems okay until now. This person is 37 years old and has an 11-year-old daughter with a C-section and currently 7 months pregnant.
Is she COVID positive?
Does not mention that.
I mean, that's a general
so, I think she's 37 years old, so there is a increased risk of certain disorders, and they are not COVID positive.
No.
They just want to know about anomalies, so they can email me. I will tell them about the risks later because this is not pertinent to COVID. We can discuss this separately.
There's another question about are there any roles of oral anticoagulants?
Oral anticoagulants, what we have in market is mainly Xarelto. Okay, that is rivaroxaban. That is not recommended in pregnancy. So we are not giving any oral anticoagulants for pregnant women. We are giving the injectable ones, mainly the low molecular weight heparin, which is safe for both the mother and the baby. So oral anticoagulants, which generally the physicians are prescribing to the non-pregnant female, is not recommended in pregnancy. So don't take that. That mainly comes in the name of Xarelto. That is not to be taken.
There's another question here by Anita Vinod who's saying, as we don't know about the duration of this pandemic, of how long this is going to go, what is your advice for patients undergoing fertility treatments?
They can take the vaccine and can go ahead with the fertility treatment. Take the vaccine first and then you can go ahead.
Great. We covered that. There's one more question I saw. Just one second. think you've covered all the questions we've gotten so far.
I think there are
Somebody's asking
some
role of
more
aspirin.
questions they're asking about. Yeah.
Sure.
And role
No,
of
there is no role
HCQ
of
and
aspirin.
ivermectin also.
Ivermectin is not recommended in pregnancy. HCQ we were giving during the first wave. Again, there's more and more studies are coming out. Previously, they were saying, yes, HCQ is a good anti-inflammatory. You must take HCQ. We all took HCQ. Again, the studies came, no, don't take HCQ, take ivermectin, take doxy. Now we're taking doxy ivermectin. But yes, HCQ, like if the patient is already on HCQs for a number of reasons, for arthritis or rheumatoid arthritis, they can continue HCQ during pregnancy. But yes, ivermectin is not recommended during pregnancy. So ivermectin should not be taken. HCQ, if the patient is already taking, and if she has taken accidentally during her first trimester, nothing will happen. They can, continue HCQ.
Someone asking about the dose. So I think about dose of LMWH. Again, someone's asking how safe is to work as a dentist and when they're in the 35 weeks of pregnancy. Yeah.
As a dentist working till 35 weeks, it's really credible. The government is saying you can take your maternity leave after 28 weeks. But yes, if you are working, so there is something called as negative pressure mask. Okay, because you are working in very close proximity to the patient, you are working in the oral cavity actually. So yes, these negative pressure masks are available in the market, so you can get them, and they're quite safe. They're 100% effective, and then you can continue with your dental procedure if, as in when there is an emergency. If there are procedures which can be delayed, you take your call. Somebody's asking how long can we take LMWH in puerperal period? So I think 2 weeks is enough. And keep ambulating, drink plenty of fluids, so that definitely increases the risk of thrombosis, coagulation disorder.
On the Facebook page, there's somebody asking about they're 5 months pregnant, can they take a vaccine? I think we said yes for this before, right? There's another question here about, are there any anomalies known in the fetus if the patient was found to be COVID positive between 26 and 29 weeks?
No, I think Veronica can very well answer this question. No, we have not found any anomalies in the fetus, but yes, a little growth restriction and all. But no anomalies, no, we haven't seen. And neither are they reported in literature.
Yeah. We just like to start Clexane sometimes, because as we have spoken about, there are sudden deaths sometimes because there is thickening and clotting of blood, as we have discussed. So no anomalies, blood, but some deaths. And Dr. Sharmisha, you can look in the question answer session on chat one. There are lots of questions still pending there. So maybe we can type some also, because we are now running out of time.
Yeah, I think it's already 7:50. Let me see.
Yeah. So from the question answer tab, Dr. Veronica, I've taken up most of the questions. Just seeing you then.
We've done.
I pulled out the questions for you.
Okay, so again, which vaccines are recommended in pregnancy? So finally, this would be my final word again before we end, that in COVID, you can take any vaccine that is available in the market, and it has more benefits than it has risks. Pfizer is a vaccine which has been most researched upon, and I know that it is not available in India right now. So for now, you go ahead and take preferentially Covaxin, because it has a shorter duration between the 2 doses. If not, you take Covishield, because the COVID's effect are much more severe.
Dr. Veronica, you're on mute.
Than the side effects of vaccines are the same in a pregnant woman as they are in the general population. So you do not need to worry about that. And if you do have any side effects, you have great gynecologists available, who you contact, and you talk to if there is any side effect known. And about the drugs which you can use, Dr. Sharmishta has covered in detail, and she will also give a recap of. I'm really thankful to LifeCell and Dr. Sharmishta for having all us together. Thank you, everyone. And if there are any more queries, you can email us, and we shall get back to you. Thank you. Dr. Sharmishta, any last words from you?
No, I think I would like to thank Neerja and Veronica. I mean, it was really fun answering those questions. I mean, I can't say I don't have any words for that, but it was really fun and shows how much anxiety the people are facing out there. I mean, there were so many questions in one, and I think we have already answered 40 questions, right? So, I mean, look at the anxiety they're facing. I mean, so I just want to say everybody to stay calm and be positive. We'll just sail through. This too shall pass. Okay?
Correct. Right. Dr. Veronica and Dr. Sharmishta, thank you so much. I know there's a lot of misinformation out there and a lack of information, especially for the pregnant women, not being able to have a clarity on what's happening, also because scientific information is changing so quickly. So thank you for shedding light and, giving very specific answers to the questions that we have and clear-cut discussion today. And thank you for taking the time. It was a pleasure to have you.
Okay. Thank you. Good night.
All right. Bye.